Available now on Pro Wrestling Tees. 3 brand new Mack Attack t-shirts, the Mackcast, Tag Team Adventures, and the Training School, only at ProWrestlingTees.com/Mackcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, currently broadcasting, accompanied by trainee number 1 from France, he is Monster Mack!
Holy freaking crap, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Mackcast. Can you believe it, trainee?
I think this is episode 53, 4? Do you know?
I stopped counting, brother, after 50, you know what I mean? You're the one who's supposed to keep track of that stuff anyways.
I just checked the website before I updated. I go, oh, we did, okay, so that was 54. So that will, but I can believe it.
And it's a really special one because we got a New England Hall of Famer in the Mack Mansion. Can you believe it?
You're going to let me do the intro, dude.
I am, and I'm just setting the people up. You got to build it first, trainee. You start slow, and then you build it up.
But you started with New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer. I was going to end with New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer.
That's why you do. That's why you do the intros. You're absolutely right, trainee. So, no Mac news. That's the Mac news. We got none.
We got T-shirts, new shirts, right?
We got a special deal.
Sizes.
And only select sizes. We did an extra run of the training school T-shirts, and there's not enough trainees, so we got a whole batch of extra large and large training school shirts that you can get hot deals at the merchandise booth at Wrestling Show.
So we're giving out the hot deals?
Oh, yeah. We got the hottest of hot deals at the Mac merch. Mac merch, yeah.
Yeah, Matt, there it is.
All right, here it is.
But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, in the house tonight, a man that you may have seen on WWF, in WCW, somebody that we seen at our first ROH show that we ever went to, and New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer.
Was that Ring of Honor Invades Boston?
Yeah, Honor Invades Boston, yeah. In the house tonight, Maverick Wild.
How you doing?
How's it going, man?
Oh, it's going great.
Now, I just want to thank you for coming down. I think this is official. You are the first guest that we've ever had on that has his own Wikipedia page.
Yeah, I don't know how that came about. I don't know who put that up there.
It's some that's where this man got most of his notes from. He went to the wiki, his notes that are written on an old envelope. Clearly, he was very prepared.
Well, if it's online, it's obviously true. So
It's gotta be, right? It's gotta be true. It's on Wikipedia, and that means it's like, official.
And if you heard it on the Maccast, then it has to be as true as well, because we got the info offline.
Off the internet, yeah.
Very true.
Now, on the Wikipedia page, it does say that you started wrestling in 1988.
I started training in 1988.
Training
yes.
in 88.
Yes.
Okay. So let's go back to a time of mullets and fanny packs. Previous to that,
That was 2 months ago.
yeah. I bought Scott Levesque a fanny pack for Christmas like 2 years ago. They're still in. They're awesome.
Still wears it to this day.
But so even before that, when you were a little Mav, not quite going as wild, what drew you to pro wrestling?
The first time I ever saw it actually was probably about 13 at my great-grandmother's house, and she had dementia, and the only thing that would keep her interest was wrestling on TV.
Yeah.
And she lived in Franklin, Mass, and so that would have been around the era of, I believe the Strongbows were,
Okay.
and Bob Backlund would have been champion. And early on, I was a big Bob Backlund fan. And then my favorite tag team to ever develop was Tony Gurria and Rick Martel.
Okay.
And I was extremely pissed off when they lost the belts to the Moondogs. And
So that's the era that drew your attention?
that's kind of when I first started getting into it. And not the ridiculous, but it's, after a couple of years, it started to seem a little
Cartoony?
too childish at that
Okay.
point. I mean,
That's the Hogan you're starting to get into.
right around Hogan years.
Digging
I
into
didn't,
Hogan,
I liked him. I'm not going to be,
Right, everybody
I'm not going to
did.
be one of these guys that, shits all over him. I never liked him. I liked him. But, and my interest kind of was on and off at that point.
Okay.
And then kind of what happened was weird occurrence. My brother Danny was in a car accident, and he was in the hospital in a body cast.
Jesus.
And so
Like
he was a massive wrestling fan.
Yeah.
And so my parents, to keep him entertained, they went out and found every wrestling magazine they could find.
Just anything.
And I remember opening up these magazines, and I'm like, who the hell is Carlos Colon, and why the hell does his fucking forehead look like that?
You're like, wait a minute. I think there might be some other wrestling other than the WWF.
And then around somewhere in that time, I see Worldwide got on TV,
right.
And World Class was on TV at that point. So it was really a lot different than what I was used to seeing.
Were you drawn more towards that style of wrestling than what you feel WWF was turning into then?
Yeah, because it just seemed more realistic.
Gritty, right? Like
more realistic, and I really especially like the world class stuff because it wasn't, you came from a diet of, guys that would get wiped out on TV,
right?
Like I used to, and
which we'll get into, I'm sure.
Yeah, and just world class was all really mostly all competitive matches.
Right, yeah.
It was like this is just
these guys are going out there. They're going.
There was the Freebirds and the Von Erichs, and there was music, and apparently the Sportatorium was a bomb hole from what everybody tells me, but they just really made it up, and it was really
great, right? Like,
yeah,
it was impressive to watch.
I just remember looking at that and going, well, this is just fucking awesome.
Now, like, for us, right, like, wrestling and music have kind of always been hand in hand. Like, when we were growing up as kids, like, that was the Hogan, rock and wrestling, all that stuff. What was it like to, like, did they just not show entrances? Did shows start with guys already in the ring?
A lot of the old, the 80s and 70s TV tapings. Some were done in Hamburg, Pennsylvania, or a lot of them were actually done in Hamburg, Pennsylvania, in a field house in Allentown, Pennsylvania as well. That was really the main one that they ran them in. It would usually start off with you could usually tell who was getting beat because they started off with the introduction with him in the ring.
He's already standing up there waving.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Sal G, and Sal G would raise his hand, and the announcer would go G. I don't know what that was. They would always announce, ladies and gentlemen, Sal G, and he'd stick his hand up in the air, and then the announcer would go G, ladies and gentlemen, like he was going to get bigger pop.
Right. Come on, guys, it's G.
Yeah. So, but and so there was almost no use of music at that point,
right?
And
only your real big name stars had like a song, right? I think like Hogan initially started coming out to the song he came out to in Rocky, right?
Yeah, Hogan was the first one you saw on
national,
on national, on New York's TV,
right,
to really use it, And then, of course, everybody started getting a song, and
it's just kind of the thing now.
Yeah, I mean,
you see guys that refuse to go up to the ring if their if the song's not playing right or whatever.
At first, it'd be whatever pop music they can find, and then
then
early on, Vince McMahon Jr. obviously decided he was going to have to brand things, so he started giving these guys original music.
Right,
and
Jim Johnson, right, is the guy who does all the music.
Yeah, I believe so.
I don't know if he still does it, but I know at one point he was the guy.
So you said that your brother got into an accident. You were reading the magazines, and that really piqued your interest to get back into wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it was more of a passing interest for me. Like I said, I like Tony Gurria and Rick Martel, but beyond that, it was like, it was. I didn't like the Moondogs. Now that you go back and look at them, and it was actually kind of neat, But it just, it didn't really sink in until about 84, 85, which, and then, when I saw these magazines, all these guys I'd never heard of, which, of course, when you're looking at the time frame and the context, this was right as the territories were getting ready to start falling off all over the place, but they were still there, I was like, who the hell is Vern Gunn?
Never heard of this guy?
Did you catch any local wrestling shows?
Not really. I mean, Bedlam from Boston, I believe, would have been the really early 80s. That was Kill Kowalski's
stuff. Yeah,
IWF at that point, which is odd because when I first got into it, he actually tried to restart the Bedlam from Boston tapings, and I actually worked on a few of those shows.
Sergeant Muldoon talked a lot about the Bedlam stuff when we.
Yeah, and that would have been when he was doing it. That would have been before my time.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
And so when you say 84, 85, you start getting back into it, how did you find, like, when did you think, like, this is something that I actually want to start doing, like, physically want to start doing?
Okay,
like,
so
in the ring.
Then the next step after seeing a couple of live shows, and so
what did you go see live?
Well, they used to run they used to run the Wallace Civic Center a few times a year in Fitchburg, which would have been about 20 minutes down the road from my house. So, and then a couple of things at Worcester. I can't tell you that if I had ever thought about getting into wrestling, going down to the Wallace Civic Center kind of almost turned me off to it at that point.
Because the building was so dumpy, or?
No, because there were so many goddamn fights in the stand. I guess if you talk to some of the older guys, the Fitchburg thing was like the shit end of the loop.
Gotcha.
They never nobody wanted to work in Fitchburg,
So the B show got Fitchburg.
Well, at that point they didn't really have a B show.
Okay.
I mean, they've always had their Cape Cod Melody Tent shows and stuff like that, but no, they did like a summer swing more like
Okay.
And
all the time.
yeah, and like Fitchburg was like the rotten crotch of the run. So from what I've been told,
bad attitudes, fights in the crowd.
Oh, it was just so many fights. It was like Jesus Christ. The worst part was I think that was actually where I think Randy Savage had his first match for Vince right there. Because him and Randy Poffo were on the show, and it was like. They were great to watch, and I remember actually, oddly enough, being more impressed by by Lanny Poffo
than by Savage.
I was like, because he did he did
the
first time I'd ever seen him a moonsault. Right, I was like, well, where the fuck did that come from?
You could do that in wrestling.
Wow, yeah, Jesus Christ. Now that you look at it, it's kind of a low watt version, but hey, whatever. It was like, whoa,
ahead of its time for sure. So that almost turned you off, but
yep.
Where was the connection to like?
So
did you see like an ad for a school? Or?
Yeah, I had. After that, I kind of thought I wanted to get into it still, even though I was almost turned off to it. And back in that day, you had it was either in Malden, I believe, was Walter Kowalski, Killer Kowalski's school.
Yep.
And see, the problem was it was still a pretty closed business when I was looking to get into it.
Right.
I mean, now you could,
people weren't exactly. He wasn't advertising on TV. Go to his wrestling school.
I could walk out the sidewalk and throw my dick out, and hit 5 different wrestling schools at this point, and I got a small little dick, so
one right down the street. It's that way.
Yeah. So it's but it was still pretty closed at that point. So you used to actually have to send letters to Walter to try and get on the thing.
Right.
So my wife can probably I would have been about, I think I was dating her at the time. My wife.
You got high school sweethearts, right?
Oh yeah. So
pretty impressive.
I made the poor girl take pictures of me, so we could send them off to Walter Kowalski.
You took the initial 8x10 pics. You did.
She
awesome.
did. So well, they weren't 8x10.
Right. But
so they were.
promo pics.
For some reason, when Walter Kowalski had his pick of the litter, he wanted nothing to do with a pudgy guy who was wearing a pair of spandex running shorts with a pair of red tiger striped underwear over the top of them. Because I had my gimmick all set up.
You knew what you were going to be.
Oh yeah, Jesus!
Do you remember it? Do you remember?
I was always going to be Maverick Wild.
That was
actually,
always the name. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was always the name. Actually.
Pretty good. But what was the character? Was it? I'm guessing a lot different.
I didn't think that far ahead, really. I thought my character would be somebody slap me on the ass and get out and do your goddamn bucket match.
All right. No problem. So you said he didn't want anything to do with you.
Well, I don't know. I mean, he never answered.
He just never.
So how I actually got into
Walter
it was
like, "Fuck this guy."
So Walter used to sell a lot of shows. He was, the sold show was almost a thing of the past now.
Right.
But Walter used to sell a lot of shows, and he had an in with the PALs, the Police Athletic Unions, and he used to run a show every year in Gardner, Massachusetts, for the PAL. So I went down to the show, and I watch a show, and there's guys of varying degrees of skill.
Right.
But then there were these 2 guys on the show, and it was Chris Duffy and Brian Walsh.
Okay.
I watched this match, and I was like, "Holy shit!"
Stood out above
great.
everything else.
It was, It really did. I don't know, no offense to anybody who was on the show at that point, but, maybe because some of the other guys kind of stunk a little. But, these guys were just like, they just blew everybody away. I was like, oh, holy shit. So I waited around like a real fucking creeper after
Right, just hanging around.
Hanging around. What's going on, And I accosted poor Brian Walsh and asked him. I said I had tried to get into Killer Kowalski's school. And he said, well, I train people on the side.
Right.
And so I found out he lived in Braintree. So without the benefit of a ring and some crash mats in the cellar, I started learning how to wrestle.
In a basement on some
in a basement, yeah. The ropes were just, well, stick your arm up, because that's what you do when you hit the ropes, and hit the wall with your hip, and, come off.
Just bounce off the concrete wall.
Oh,
right?
yeah, which is, well, if you saw me walk up the stairs here, it probably pretty
has
much.
A little bit to do
yeah,
with stuff,
yeah, because, I'm not too bright.
I feel like that's just kind of goes, it's a blanket statement for wrestlers in general, like... Does everybody feel great? Everybody, how do you feel when you wake up in the morning? Is it fantastic?
Fantastic.
Oh yeah, I feel like I'm shitting. I feel like I'm shitting spinal column sometimes.
Yeah, So was it just you two training, just the two of you, or did he have...
No, there were a couple other guys, I'm sure he tried to maximize his profits as much
Anybody
as possible.
notable? Anybody that...
No, nobody.
Just dudes.
Including myself, but
Right.
but he did take me aside after, about 8 or 9 times there. I said, you're better than these other guys, and you need to go find a place to work. And I said,
was it something you felt like you caught right away? Like,
yeah, I was literally probably about, but these would be like 3-4 hour sessions, and it was all intensely personal. There were only 3 or 4 guys there.
Right, just kind of
bearing that in mind, I would probably end up having my first match probably after about 12, 13 lessons.
Right.
And I was going down to, like I said, I was going across the Braintree, not going down to, going
Right.
across the Braintree, a couple of times a week. So,
So 6-7 weeks of training.
yeah, and
nights a week for
he said,
24
well,
hours.
you need some work. You need to get some work now. I said, okay, where do I do that? I said, can I work for Walter? And, oh, no. No. Walter's not going to want anything to do with you. You're an outlaw. Oh, okay, I was trained by you. Well, I'm an outlaw now, too, because I trained you. Son of a bitch, I just started
I may
him.
have went the wrong direction.
Yeah, I know. Well, when he was on it. But, so what gets into a little bit of the history of this area, he said, listen, I know this guy, his name is Joe Eugenio, and he runs shows in the Fall River, New Bedford area.
Around what year was this?
This would be
88?
This would be 89.
89.
So I started.
So was it what was Joe running? New England Wrestling? Or was it Yankee already?
It was, oh my God, what was it when I first started? Oh, Jesus. I'm sorry, I land on my head a lot over the years. Would have been Whaling City Wrestling.
Okay, so it was Whaling City.
It was, yeah. I've heard somebody else call themselves that out here.
Yeah.
But he was
Sean
the
Candido ran.
He was the original.
In tribute to Joe.
He was the original Whaling City Wrestling. So I went down and I had my first. He used to run. They don't even have the festival anymore. I think it was at Buttonwood Park.
Right. Yeah.
And
they just finished a couple. I think last year. I think
yeah.
the last one.
And he ran outdoors out there, and I had my first match at Buttonwood Park. And
Who was your opponent?
It was a guy named Brian the Scorpion Shiloh, who was
Yeah, I was gonna say that name does not.
He was around there for a couple of years, and he had a decent amount of talent. The problem with, because I was a outlaw, whatever the hell that meant at that point, when you came down here, these guys were basically self-trained.
Right.
They were training in the basement of I believe, the YWCA in New Bedford.
Okay.
Or was it in Fall River? I think it was in New Bedford.
I think initially there was
okay,
a lot of
and then they would occasionally, like about once every month and a half, they would run shows upstairs in the top level of it. So I got my first match in Buttonwood Park, and then they used to run these really small shows at Outdoor World, and where is that? That's Carver,
right?
Yes, and I guess my memory's a little better than I thought it was.
That's not too bad.
And then I get to come indoors and work at the YWCA.
Now that first show outside, it's a festival show, probably a ton of people, right?
Oh yeah, shitloads. Yeah.
How was that feeling? Your feeling going out through the curtain, that first match in front of all these, like, you know what I mean? A lot of times people's first matches, and nowadays training schools have training shows where their kids stop putting on matches in front of friends and family kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But then your first match, you're slapped. There you go, kid. Have some fun.
Yeah,
You're
because
in front of a couple thousand people.
Well, it was weird to me because you kind of want to figure you're going to start off and you're going to be in the ring with somebody that has more is more experienced than you are,
Right, to guide you.
Which I guess in a way he was, but like I said, these guys were training themselves,
Right.
And they would do things that would just.
You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, exactly. That was probably the best way to put it. Wait a minute. But anyway, I didn't really notice it so much the first match. I've always had the same feeling from the day I started to the day I stopped, and started again and stopped again.
Semi-retired, right? You were semi-retired.
Yeah, well, no, I was definitely, and I wouldn't even call it retired. Retired indicates you had actually made some money at it. So, no, I've always had the same feeling when I always really nervous and always pacing around backstage, and then as soon as it's time to go out, it just goes away.
Right, the switch
just
turns.
goes away,
Yeah.
and it's always been like that for me. It was like that my very first show.
That's this guy right here.
I will say this. Really, I probably wasn't quite. I probably was a little out of my element. I remember I went to do something, and I told this guy Brian the Scorpion Shiloh to duck, and I went to do a flying clothesline, and he ducked. Not his fault. And then I hit my chest and slid right out of the ring onto my face.
Little kids must have loved it.
That looked neat. Oh, I'm glad you liked it. Spitting grass out of my teeth.
Just laying there on the ground. Damn it. Poor life choice. So you get to start working on the inside now. You're working at the YWCA.
Yep.
On these small shows.
Yes.
Anybody like who you working with? Like who are some of these guys that are around at the time?
Boy. So
You didn't know this was going to be a history lesson, right?
so the guys around that era would have been that I would have been working with. Would have been Blade Runner, who later I think was Reverend Redemption.
Yep. Right, yeah, you didn't know that was his name.
Oh, okay.
He used to come out with a machete, right?
Eventually.
Okay,
Yes.
not right away. I knew he
Yes.
came out with a machete at one
Okay.
point.
A guy named Colossus. His real name was Tony.
Yep.
I believe he's. I
just
was working.
retired?
Yeah, I think he was just working about a year ago.
I think even less. I seen him.
Yep.
I seen his retirement match for House of Bricks.
Mm-hmm.
House's promotion.
There was another guy. His name was Dave. We used to call him Shockwave. Scott King.
Okay.
Or Sky King.
Sky King. Yeah.
Garth Garrison, who was his tag team partner, and after a couple of shows, actually, who ended up coming down there because they had no other place to work too was Scott Garland, Scott Taylor / Scotty Too Hottie,
Right.
and Steve Ramsey.
Now, why do they have nowhere else to work? Like,
Because realistically, there were not a lot of shows. I mean, it's so alien to talk to guys now and
right,
just-
because there's 4 shows every weekend in different spots around the state, if not more.
Yeah, there's 4 shows in every town sometimes.
Right, yeah.
and it was like there were so few and far between and just scattered. There were like a couple little groups that were like splinter groups, like you were speaking of Sergeant Muldoon, John Callahan.
Yep.
He had his own little thing going in Worcester.
Right, and
around when I was breaking in.
the shore, right? They ended up
Yeah.
doing a lot of stuff up
Yeah.
at the shore.
And then there was a guy named Tommy Jeanette who sold a lot of fair dates
Okay.
and worked around the New England,
That's
New
familiar
Jersey,
too.
that kind of area. He would do a summer run. And then it was just really it was Walter and really not many other people at that
Right.
point. So and then there was Joe Eugenio in Whaling City Wrestling, which later became New England Pro Wrestling. Yeah, that sounds
Pro
about
Wrestling
right.
And
Yeah.
then Yankee Pro Wrestling.
Yep.
And then Top Rope Promotions.
Yep. Yeah.
Have you worked for every?
No, I did not work for it.
incarnation
I
of-
don't think I worked for it when it was Yankee, or if I did, it was very briefly. I worked down in this area almost exclusively because nobody was running a lot of shows for about 2.5, 3 years.
Yeah.
So
you just hear it all the time.
Yeah, because there was, I remember talking to Killer Kowalski, and he was all worried about somebody else coming up. It wasn't him. It was about it was Jeanette. He was worried about the guy who was buying these fair dates. He was all worried about him stealing his shows, and I could already tell within about 6 months. It's like, this isn't the guy you have to worry about. It's Joe Eugenio,
Right. Joe's a businessman for
yeah.
sure.
Oh yeah. I'm nothing against Joe. I just I'm just saying that was the guy you had to worry about. Because I knew he could come in and undersell his shows, plain and simple.
Yeah. He had that ability to do.
Yeah.
It. Now you said the first couple of years you worked exclusively down here.
Yeah, there really wasn't too many other places to work.
Right. When was it that you got I don't want to say your first break, but when you said you were talking to Walter and stuff again, how did you get that connection with Kowalski? Because at first, initially, he Walter didn't want you because you were an outlaw.
That goes into the when he tried to restart the Bedlam from Boston stuff.
Okay,
and he needed guys that weren't his own to get beat.
Right, bodies. He needed bodies.
So he went to Joe Eugenio, and who do you got? And so I was on the who you got list.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But so when did you get your actual first break?
Okay, that's a little involved.
Was the Bedlam stuff involved there? Because I know he had like TV for a while up in Boston. They weren't broadcasting the Bedlam stuff.
When he tried to restart it, it never got on TV. Okay. So he only really had one run, as far as I know. The guys maybe older could tell you different, but he only had one run with the Bedlam from Boston stuff. My break started, actually, and I told you the guys have been training themselves.
Right.
Well, there was a wrestler who used to do a lot of jobs on TV and worked a couple of territories who a lot of guys know down here. His name is Silvano Souza.
Okay, yep.
So he came in.
Just seen him recently, too.
Okay.
House of Brick shows.
Yep, he came in, and he saw the show, and he liked some of the guys on the show, and he offered Joe, he said, I can come in and train these guys, and I'll put the matches together for you. And so Joe, at that point, I believe it was on Coggeshall Street in New Bedford, had rented out a warehouse spot that he was running shows out of every 2 weeks, and the guys would train there. So I was driving down New Bedford once or twice a week to train with Silvano. Okay. And Silvano took a group of us to go down to TV one time, and
that's kind of what it was then, right? Like they would contact local promoters, and they would just bring down a group of dudes.
Yeah, you were definitely shipped in by the fucking wagon load. Right. And then I didn't get on that time. And
how was that your first time backstage? Was it TV or
it was TV? It was TV. So
this is early 90s.
Yeah. So
pre-Raw. So it's like Superstars and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, you had that whole Superstars challenge, and occasionally they would even tape for All American.
Okay.
They would put ones. What they would do is they do it 2 or sometimes even 3 days in a row.
Right. In the same spot.
Yeah, and what they would do is, they do Superstars and challenge, and it was very. It was divided up on a dry erase board, and all 4 blocks. You do 2 weeks of Superstars, 2 weeks of challenge, and then if there was a third day of taping, they would actually just put matches in a can for the All American show in case they needed them,
just so they could put whatever they needed.
Yeah, in case you needed Rusty Brooks versus Leapalani Poffo on there, and
just to fill up some time. You got 12 minutes? All right, we got 12 minutes.
Yeah, and they could certainly do it. They were talented workers. So it was very organized. I didn't get on the first time I went down. It was a whole group of them. Silvano Souza insisted. I think he was trying to get in. I think he was obviously trying to get an in back there.
Right,
He
yeah.
probably wanted to segue into getting himself an office job.
Right.
I'm guessing, and there's nothing wrong with that either. So
We'll all make a little
So
money.
he said. So he made us all wear suits, and at that time they didn't have a dress code. And
So it's just you guys in suits and everybody else in workout gear.
oh yeah, we look like a bunch of fucking goobers. I remember fucking Savage looking at a group of us and going, "God damn it, what's with all the goddamn fucking office stooges?"
Just thought you guys were just a bunch of suits just walking home.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. My head and mullet were hanging low.
Right. Yeah.
But then probably about 8 months after that, a guy named Phil Apollo came along down to the gym to basically.
Yep.
Sousa left, and then Phil Apollo came in to do the same job. And Phil Apollo, was a little more current with his contacts,
Right.
and so I ended up going on to TV with him and Scott Taylor and a couple other guys, and good on, and I was bloody fucking miserable at first. I really
Right,
was.
just didn't enjoy it, or
Well, no, it was no good.
you? Okay, I got you.
It's just
I thought you were saying you were miserable, like you were.
it was probably actually. I'm thinking it's probably more like a year later, maybe even a little more.
than the 8 months.
Yeah, because let's see, it would have been because it would have been early closing in on mid '90s, or probably 92, 93 when I first went down for TV. Probably late 92, and then I think I went with Phil. It was probably a little over a year later because to get the time frame of who you would be working with, I ended up wrestling. My first match,
I was going to say, who was your first match?
Doink the Clown / Matt Bourne.
Okay, I was going to say, which it was Matt Bourne.
Oh, it was Matt
Original
Bourne.
Doink? He was Doink, too, I'm sure, right?
Yep. And Matt Bourne, I sucked, and I wasn't used to driving like that because it was
Right.
like 16 hours up to Nova
Right,
Scotia.
straight.
I was tired and nervous as hell. It was one of the few times nervousness ever got the best of me in a ring.
Yeah.
I sucked. I was just terrible. He beat the shit out of me. And I was like, oh man, this isn't gonna last too fucking long. So, but then the very next night, I ended up wrestling. I try and avoid using the term working with,
Gotcha,
but
yeah.
I ended up wrestling the head shrinkers.
Okay, it was you and
Some guy named Dan. And
just a random dude named
you're in there with a herd, you know?
Yeah. So they just and you.
So you and the other guy with a head. Yeah, get out there. So
right. Is that what it was? You had similar looking singlets.
no, it just these two ain't been on yet. Let's see what these assholes can do. So we get thrown out there, and and the match is supposed to go. I get in, get the shit kicked out of me. I get thrown back into my corner and tag out, and then the other guy gets in, and then he gets the shit kicked out of him, and that's the finish. Shit kicky number 2 was the drizzling shit.
Like just the worst.
He kept.
Did you feel much better about your performance the day before?
Not really, but it
Okay.
did. I did redeem myself because I went in there and just bumped and sold for these guys because they weigh 320 pounds apiece. What the fuck else was I going to do?
Right. There's really no choice at that point.
So he was the drizzling shit. He was screwing everything up, and they weren't doing anything all that complicated with him.
Right.
So they got pissed and they threw him back in a corner. They said, "Tag your partner." Oh, God.
We have more fun
So-
beating him up.
Well, I went in there, I took the finish on the fly, and I don't want to stereotype, but anytime I've ever met anybody that's of Samoan descent or something, they either love you or they want to fucking stab you. I don't know.
It's the love or the hate thing.
Yeah, so, it was weird because, I remember when I went to talk over the match with him at first, it was very intimidating because he had Yokozuna in there.
Right.
And,
Watching over him,
and
right.
his brothers.
Yeah,
And,
his brothers.
and Sika, I believe, was managing them at the time. And they had just between them consumed about 92 lobsters. And literally you walked into the dresser, it was just crunch, 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 crunch. I'm like, this guy still looks hungry. He's going to fucking eat me. But afterwards, they're coming up to me. It was like, oh, brother, thank you so much. The other guy, oh, you piece of shit. Right. Oh, brother, thank you. Fuck you, we kill you. And I was like, wow.
I was going to ask, what was it like coming back, and what kind of feedback were you getting coming back into the locker room? Were they? I know there weren't agents back then.
There were agents.
The way there are now.
No, not set up like that.
Right.
The feedback was. Goes into a rant I have sometimes about guys that did TV jobs. The feedback was they kept having you back.
Right, that's the positive. Right?
I have always said it, and a lot of guys have been insulted by it in the past because I don't know what it is. Some guys in that era or who used to do TV used to think that was fucking it. That was their defining moment in fucking life.
Yeah.
Where the truth of the matter is, because they had concentrated things were tight back then. They were having a hard time with houses.
Right.
So they had consolidated all their TV tapings to the East Coast, and I don't even think they went to Florida. I think they kept all.
That's why a lot of those guys were.
So a lot of guys like myself, got booked. My thing was, if you have a pair of trunks and a pair of wrestling boots, you can get on once.
Right.
But
they'll give you a shot.
Yeah. So they kept using me because they liked what I did, and then I did that for about a little over a year.
Now working just all the TVs, or how often were they bringing you up?
Pretty much all the TVs, not quite all of them. I mean, when they went down, to anything that was basically from New York up into Canada.
Gotcha.
I did.
Were on
when they started getting down in Philadelphia and Delaware, they had there was another raft of workers down there.
Whole other section.
Yeah, it was another raft of workers basically they used down in that area.
Now, he's got the list written on of some of the names that you worked on the what's it?
Adam Bomb.
Adam Bomb hated me.
Why? Why did Adam Bomb? What was?
Because I had never taken a power bomb in my life, and he went. Right? Well, no, he went to pick me up, and I didn't know you're supposed to sit up with a stupid
so you
thing. Halfway and boom, and it was fucking. That was the shit. That was actually right after that. That was I think probably my third time there, and right after that, I think it was Tony Gurria took me aside and said, "You have to start watching the guys' matches," because I didn't. Walter Kowalski had this thing. It was one of the things I listened to was don't watch wrestling on TV because it steals from your originality.
Right.
So I didn't.
So you were like, I don't powerbomb. What the hell?
Power what? What the fuck are you talking about?
Like, you want me to jump and flip?
Yeah.
No thanks, dude.
I had no idea what the hell that was. Yeah, sure. The powerbomb. What the fuck's this guy talking about?
Yeah, I'll take that finish. Sure.
What's this guy with the weird colored eyes? Because he had them contact lenses.
Right. Actually looked like
what the hell is this guy talking about?
You got Bastion Booger.
Bastion Booger, I did live on Raw at the Manhattan Center. Yes,
that was one of the first Raws, right?
I don't know if it was one of the first Raws. My main experience from that was back then. I was fairly thickly built,
right,
and I knew I was a generic guy, so I had a pretty generic look. And I want to say Bob Backlund had just come back at that point.
Okay.
So the entire Manhattan Center before my match, because I went down to the match without introduction.
Right, you just walked down waving.
Ladies and gentlemen, Maverick Wild. So, yeah. Although I think you're using the name Scott Day.
I was going to say,
yes.
How often did they change, to use not the name that you normally wrestled with?
My first time I used the name Scott Day because I thought Daypray was too hard for them to pronounce.
Okay.
And they never got it right anyway, so I was right.
Right.
So I did that Manhattan Center, and just because of the way I looked, I had my red trunks, and the entire crowd, which Manhattan Center, what it hold 1,200 people,
right? About that,
the entire crowd was chanting Bob Backlund Jr. at me.
Yeah,
and I remember specifically Vince McMahon and Jerry Lawler were at ringside because they actually, because they did it at ringside, and McMahon's looking at me with that kind of goofy smile you see him do sometimes.
Yeah.
And Lawler's laughing at me, and I literally just, before the cameras were, just shrugged. I was like, I tell you.
I guess I'm Bob Backlund Jr.
And then Bastion Booger came out and kicked my ass.
Yeah. Now, what were your, did you have many interactions with Vince?
No, God, no.
Because he's like, off in his castle, right? Like kind of separated from everybody.
So when I went to,
I just think Vince is probably like one of the most insane and most genius people in the world.
So yeah, well, I was there, 3 or 4 hours ahead of the matches,
right?
And there was somehow this really heavy guy had gotten in, and he was claiming he was a wrestler, and it was some cowboy gimmick that he claimed somebody sold him. So oh boy,
right? Yeah,
and he stank like a garbage truck. And I seem to remember I was sitting there with the guys who eventually became the Headbangers.
Okay,
yeah. So and we were talking, and we're all trying to ignore this guy, and he stinks. We're trying to move away, and this
just scurrying this way.
This guy. It was a good thing we moved away because this guy. All of a sudden, Vince walked in, and this guy made a beeline over to him, Vince, yeah. And thank God, don't look like we know him. And Vince had security escort him out. So
grab that guy, get him out of here. What else we got on here? Your handwriting's terrible, dude. Mr. Hughes.
Yes. Yep.
How was that?
That was fine. That was the first time a referee ever stuck up for me live.
Like during the match, or?
Yeah, because I get hit with a big boot, and these things really weren't all that rehearsed. They really weren't at that point. So I took the bump, and I thought I would sell it by rolling out to the apron.
Right.
And I boom, bounced out, rolled out to the apron. Well, he got pissed at me, and he started bitching at me, and the ref actually got in his face before he could stick the living shit out of me. He said, "He's doing you a fucking favor.
Put it over, kid."
Yeah.
And Quebecers?
Yep. That was okay.
Is that with Dave again? Just a random dude named Dave?
Yeah, I don't even remember who that was. Dave, Dan, Doug, I don't know.
Yeah, whoever it was.
Yeah. That I remember that specifically because they told me when there's a cannonball thing that you want to
this thing. Right?
Yep. So you want to cradle him. Well, instead of cradling, and I did cradle him, but I drew my hands into a ball, and as he hit, I punched myself right in the nuts. With about 285 pounds driving
on
it.
Top of it. That's the finish no matter what at that point, yeah.
No.
It's like, oh, man. And so any other notable guy, anything that...
No, oddly enough, my first match was with... my first match on TV was with Matt Bourne, and then I worked with him one other time, close to the last time I did anything with them.
Yep.
And it was the only time I ever got any offense on TV.
Yeah.
I don't know why he was feeling that charitable that day.
Right. He was
it was at the Lowell Memorial Auditorium, and and I remember I did something, and he actually fucked up, and. Yeah, he did. His timing was off. Matt Bourne, I know he's dead, and it's terrible to speak ill, but he had I don't know if he had a cocaine habit, but he was very mercury, like a lot of people you would find on cocaine. Maybe he was just bipolar. I don't know.
Could be,
but
could be cocaine.
And so whatever. It was like, look, offense, and then he German suplexed me in the back of my skull, and I almost bit my own tongue off. And you don't know fear till you've been German suplexed by a clown. And,
that's on my bucket list, I think.
You might want to amend your bucket list. And then because he beat me up so bad, the bastion of the guy who should never stick up for a job guy in his life for beating him up, Scott Hall, started arguing with him about why he beat me up so bad.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, Bob Evans could tell you the story was there, actually.
That's
they were
so
just
funny.
they were just arguing back and forth, and I had Scott Hall in my corner. I was like,
it's just a strange thing, a strange memory to have.
Yeah, I was like, how the fuck did this happen?
Right. You look back at it and you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it was surreal.
Now, were you only working TVs, or did they have you down to do house shows and stuff?
I did one house show and that was at the Cape Cod Melody tent.
Right.
And again, because things were tight, they were using two or three local matches to fill out the card. And I worked with the guy I saw, in one of the matches that made me want to become a wrestler, was Chris Duffy. And
got to work with him.
Yeah, and he carried me well enough where everybody thought I was actually okay. You know?
You're like, shit, we should use this kid.
Yeah.
Now, you said you did that for about a year.
Little over,
A little over a year. What stopped it from happening? Was it just because the way they were changing the way they were doing TV, or?
No, to be frank with you, I think when I tell guys this, they think, yeah, bullshit, you're bullshitting me. I always said I really didn't want a career in professional wrestling.
Right.
I was always in it for the adventure. Now some guys are fucking Mark for thinking that way. Fucking
guess
what?
We're Mark,
well, fucking guess what? This fucking Mark did a lot more than a lot of other Marks that fucking wanted to make a career and fucking whatever.
Sure.
I blundered my way into more shit than some people earn their way into. Okay, and I just kind of wonder, hey guys,
call me Mav.
hey, no, but yeah, so. And that time, I kind of had to make a choice because once they started putting you on house shows and things of that nature, it was seen as like kind of a next step. It was like was that they wanted to see more of you, and of course I was involved in my father's business at that time, and I kind of had to make a choice. I was like, do I want to actually change my mind and try this as a career and dedicate a lot more time to this, or do I go with the family business? And I just, at that point, I was like, I have to go with the family business because I had to be realistic. I was a 5'9" guy.
Right.
And at the time I was doing it, even though they were just coming, that was just in the middle of, I think, in the middle of that whole steroid scandal, they were still looking for big guys. They still wanted guys, monsters, 270 minimum,
6 foot.
Yeah, and I just, I didn't fit that mold, and I knew my chances were minimal, at bat, like even more minimal than a lot of guys. So it's just, it's a matter of realism,
And so you went with the real life kind of scenario.
Yes, yeah.
Did you take time off of the business for a little while?
No.
So just
the only time I ever really took time off was on the birth of my 2 children. It would be, I had told my wife that it would be 3 months on the plus side of it and 3 months on the negative side of it.
So that time.
Yeah, pretty much.
And people, if they say like, oh, you say you don't want a career, or if the decision to you, like wrestling career or normal life career, like they don't take into consideration like the travel.
Well, that was the other thing. I mean, you were coming out of an era.
Wears you down.
You were coming out of an era where these guys were just working like they were
300 plus days.
They were driven like dogs,
right? And you weren't flying a lot then.
And at that point, I was also cognizant at that time there wasn't as much money in it as there was,
right? Previous to that,
6-7 years before that, and later as it went on, the money exploded again, but it wasn't really there. I mean,
it goes down again. It's just kind of how it works.
But, I was just being very realistic about it. I was like, if this is hell on a family. I wanted kids. And of course, I was told my wife, I'm going to do this for 10 years and I'll be done. And then I did it for 25 fucking years straight.
After the 10-year mark, every year was she like, it's a little past.
hon, I'm just hitting my stride.
I'm feeling great. I'm feeling good.
I'm just getting good now. I'm just getting good.
So when you stopped working for them on the regular, you're just still doing local stuff?
Yeah.
Who were you working for around then? And did your booking fees go up because you were on TV?
Oh, fuck no. Fuck no. Are you kidding me? Hi, know me? I was the guy who got beat up by Bastion Booger.
Booger beat the shit out of me, right?
So you've been seen getting the shit kicked out of you. What good are you on my show?
Was that ever a problem, though? Like, being seen as the guy who got beat up on TV?
So you're asking me who, the guys I was working for. I always kind of, usually, not one-sourced it, but I always found a main person that was running a lot of shows.
Yep.
And then I would stick with them. So that was a little nebulous for about a year and a half. There was a startup in Nashua called Universal Championship Wrestling that was John McAdams, and I worked for him and a couple of different people because shows were starting to loosen up at that point. There was more work around. And then I worked for a guy named Lou Bordeaux who used the same name, actually. And after that, then I tied up with a guy named Bruiser Costa, who was running who was running a decent amount of shows. I was actually driving through Nashua, New Hampshire, thinking I haven't really been working as much as I'd like to. And then I saw this poster on a telephone pole, and it was the advertisement was for Boxing Bob Evans versus Johnny Royal, I believe. Boxing Bob Evans, so, which is if you ever talk to Jeff Costa, him and Bob Evans have had a rather on and off relationship over the years, because he told Bob he wanted him to be Boxing Bob Evans, and Bob Evans said, "I'm afraid that'll I don't want to compromise my professional integrity."
Right.
To which Jeff Costa said, "Professional fucking integrity? You're a fucking wrestler."
Oh, Boxing Bob Evans, though. I like that name. I'm going to start calling him. I'm going to start tagging him as that.
You have to. Yeah, he'll get a kick out of that, actually.
Boxing Bob Evans.
I'm picturing him in little boxing shorts and everything.
Doing a little jig.
I have no idea. I never saw that.
Oh, I wish.
I wasn't there for the Boxing Bob Evans match.
Cannot confirm or deny.
No, I started for Jeff slightly after that, and and like I said, Jeff was running a decent amount of shows. He was probably running every 3 weeks at that point.
Yep.
And he was running when I tied in with him. He was running a place in Hudson, New Hampshire, which was just over the bridge from Nashua, and it was a Hudson Lions Club, and he was. I've had a couple of guys that I consider mentors over the years.
Right, people that take him under their wing.
Silvano Souza first, really Brian Walsh first, the guy who trained me. Silvano Souza to a point, then kind of Phil Apollo, and then, I was kind of looking for the next guy, because you always want to find somebody that knows more shit than you.
Right, yeah, that way you're not staying
I
stagnant.
ended up wrestling Bob Evans on a show at the Hudson Lions Club in Hudson, New Hampshire. And now
Bob's doing great for himself too. So
he is.
Great.
But
awesome.
this is Bob Evans version 1. Okay,
so just many moons ago. The short red hair.
So okay, Bob Evans will now talk to you about professionalism, and he'll talk to you about not talking your match to death and things of that nature. Bob Evans version 1, and you will freely admit it, was anything but that. Bob Evans came to me, and he had a notebook full of shit you want to remember. I was like
14 pages of
I'm not going to remember all this fucking shit. So anyway, we went out, and he had a manager. His real name was Cody Boynes.
Which is a pretty cool name. I don't know why you just want to use that as your...
No, you can't use that as... No, this is... See, Jeff Costa loved gimmicks, okay?
Yeah, just over the top.
He loved over-the-top gimmicks that you could put on a poster so people would drive by and go,
at that.
"What the fuck is that?"
Yeah.
So he had... Cody Boynes used to dress up with a red wig and whatever dress he could find at the Salvation Army, and he was Mama. And
creepy.
I went out and had...
Sure.
Yeah, it was. And I went out and had a 15-minute match with Bob Evans. And I remember at some point I threw him against... The dressing room used to be actually a garage. And there was a garage door into the place. And I threw Bob Evans and then Mama into the garage door. So I get back and I was like, "Hey, how'd you like that match?" Now, Jeff Costa doesn't he never watched the fucking matches. Hey, the first thing he said to me wasn't good match or it sounded good or anything like that. He said, "You know how much a fucking garage door costs?" I was like, "Oh, fucking man, I'm fuck." And by the way, that voice, that's his voice.
Yeah.
Okay, that's as best as I can do his voice. And I was like, fuck, I'm fired the first night in. But then he went out like 3 matches later and somebody put his head through the wall. So,
all right, now I'm good. I'm pretty sure.
Less of evil, though.
Yeah,
so.
But like I said, I've always kind of latched on to a mentor here and there.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there and I remember listening, and I knew, we all used to gather around this garage door and we're all peeking out through the cracks.
Right.
And I'm watching. I was like, well, nothing much is going on with this fucking guy as far as physically, but Jesus Christ, people seem to be responding.
Into it.
Yeah. So a couple matches later, we're in Peabody, Mass. I think it was at Elks Hall. I'm not positive on that, though. But so I'm watching him. He's working with a buddy of mine named Scott Sharkey, who I haven't seen in years.
Yep.
But so Jeff was, quite frankly, one of the best improvisational workers I've ever seen in my entire life.
Good at reading the crowd.
Oh, he was great. He was so good at it. And so, and one of those guys that won't lock up for 20, 30 minutes.
Right.
They're just getting hotter and hotter. That's what he's pulling.
his
That's what he's
time.
pulling in over him,
Yeah.
Peabody. And they get fucking hotter, and they get more pissed at him, and they get more pissed at him, and they get more pissed at him. And so about 20 minutes into this match, finally you could tell, all right, he's milked this too fucking much. All right, he's gonna, that's it.
Yeah,
he's
it's
gonna
time to go.
Yeah, it's time to lock up and start doing fucking something. So he actually goes to lock up with Scott Sharkey, and somebody's car alarm went off in the parking lot, and he goes, "I gotta go, that's mine," and he walked out of the ring. And people wanted to kill him. It's just like, that guy's fucking brilliant.
Furious. I'm sorry, that just cracked me up. Now, you worked for WWF, and did you got to do some stuff for WCW?
I went down to Nitro one time. That was it. After working for Jeff for a couple of years, he was Jeff used to use referee Scott Dickinson, who ended up reffing full time on Nitro for quite a while, and they needed somebody for something. No, it didn't say what. Just go down here. Here's your plane ticket to Pensacola, Florida. I think it was Pensacola, Florida, and I know it's Florida. Might have been Daytona, whichever. I don't know.
You worked Kevin Sullivan.
I worked with Kevin Sullivan, and wrestled Kevin Sullivan.
Well, or should I say you wrestled Jacqueline, because she got a lot of.
So here.
He watched the match.
I am not.
He just checked it out recently.
I am not a huge supporter of women in wrestling beating the shit out of men. Right. Nor am I a big supporter of men beating the shit out of women.
Right.
Okay. Let me make that clear. It looks. I don't think it looks right.
Right.
It just from a size-wise position, and it's just But anyway, so I remember they told me what they wanted me to do. I'm like,
sure.
Okay. And I actually got on the phone with Jeff Costa, and I said, "I'm fucking leaving."
I'm out.
He's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "What do you mean you're leaving?" You want me to go out there and bump for the girl? I was like, Jesus Christ, every time they give you a fucking break. Like, you can't. I was like, I'm getting on a plane. You can't get on a fucking plane. You got to do it.
So cancel your ticket.
So, and this episode actually makes me look more like an asshole than anything.
No.
So, well, no, it does, because I remember, Kevin Sullivan and her kept coming up to me, because I think they had done it at the Florida, at the Disneyland tapings they used to do, or Universal.
Universal. Yeah.
Yep. I think they'd done that. They had done it there, and they put it in a can, but they hadn't done it live. So this is effectively the first time they were going to do this goddamn thing. So they kept pestering me about this match. It was like,
coming up to
it
you.
wasn't hard. It was just something it wasn't particularly fond of approaching.
Right.
So I was it was like 5-6 times they went and reviewed this match with me, and then I got called into this room, and I want to say, I know Arn Anderson was there, Terry Taylor, Kevin Sullivan.
It's not good when
she
you get
was there.
called into a side room.
Oh yeah, So there I am with guys that have been doing this 20 years, guys that drawn money,
Right,
been all over TV for years. So Arn Anderson starts, all right, kid, we know this sucks, but what you got to do is, and I was so sick of hearing it, I actually said,
dude, I know.
No, I literally looked at him, I said, listen, I've been doing this for 10 years, I've been doing this for a while now. No, not like that, but listen, I've been doing this for a while now, all right? Let me get this straight. I get in the ring, and he beats the shit out of me, right? And Arn Anderson goes, yeah. And I said, then he throws me out of the ring, and she beats the shit out of me, right? Yeah. Then she throws me back in the ring. He beats the shit out of me for a little while, right? Yeah. Then he throws me back out. She beats the shit out of me. Then she throws me back in, and then he beats me up and pins me, right? And Arn Anderson's like, yeah. What the fuck is the problem here?
We keep talking about it.
And I walked out of that room, and they must have thought I was the biggest fucking jack off they ever met.
Look at
Who
this
the fuck is this kid?
My favorite part of the match is when, after the match, you tried rolling it out. She even grabbed you, pulled you back in.
Yeah,
and
Jeff. I remember Jeff Costa telling me it was the only part he didn't like. He didn't like about it. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ! How much you want to be put over?
Now, you getting to work for both companies on TV. was it like two totally different ships?
So I kind of, when I went down to the taping, I was kind of starting to reconsider maybe trying to make a career out of it.
Right.
And so 5 minutes before live fucking TV, they had no idea what the first fucking match was. Now, I told you that when I did the TV tapings for Vince,
right.
all divided,
Everything was
4 sections,
right.
Everything was fucking organized. If things were going over, they just wouldn't erase your name off the board and shit like that. This fucking thing wasn't written on a fucking cocktail napkin. I'm fucking telling you.
So nothing.
It was the most disorganized fucking show. I have the worst local shows I've ever done.
Still put together better.
Close.
Close. The same.
Close.
As this multi-million-dollar company.
This is live fucking TV.
It wasn't even written on an old envelope or anything.
Not even on an old envelope. Nope. Oh my! I was like
So unprofessional.
It was, and I believe that was one of those nights. They almost always had like Dean Malenko and Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit on. I honestly think you saw that combination of opening matches because fucking a bunch of times because they had no fucking idea what they were doing.
Malenko, you and Benoit
It was like fucking booking with lawn darts. It was let's throw this lawn dart up. Boom. That's where it fucking landed. That's what we're doing.
It's funny because you always hear the guys tell stories or you read it in guys' books or whatever, and they talk about how disorganized it was, but it was really.
From the one night I went,
right.
The one night I was there, I was like,
only judge it on that one night,
this is a clusterfuck, And then for months after that, they kept sending me booking sheets and stuff like that, because apparently they thought, we'll keep using this guy. And I ended up having to call him. I said, could you take me off this fucking list?
Yeah, hey guys,
which must have struck them as kind of odd,
strange, right? I'm
the
sure.
secretary at that point must have been, who the fuck is this kid?
Yeah. So now you stop doing that. That makes you reconsider wanting a career in pro wrestling again.
Yeah, That went by the wayside really fucking quick.
Still working on the reg. Did you ever consider going into promoting and stuff like that?
Years later, I did promote my own shows. I was a better wrestler than I ever was a promoter. Let's just put it that way.
Was that Front Row Wrestling?
Front Row Wrestling, yep, out of New Hampshire. I had, this was after Jeff Costa had stopped running.
You were co-owners with Dr. Heresy?
I was tied in with the EWA at one point. That was Dr. Reginald Heresy. Mm-hmm. Yep. And that was more, I was, helping finance the shows and, doing some of the promotional stuff. But he handled a lot of that. So he was a lot better a promoter than I ever was.
Now, would you say you were a better wrestler than promoter? Is it just because you didn't have the time, or
part of it? We're jumping around here a little, but part of it,
we tend to.
Part of it, that's okay. Part of it is the that's the way my mind works, so it'll probably work better that way.
Yeah.
Jeff Costa had stopped running. We'll really continue on that forever.
Yeah,
but
why did Costa stop running? What was?
Oh boy, this is a long story. So I told you I started working for Jeff, and he had a decent amount of shows. Well, at one point, he decided he was really going to run the living shit out of mainly New Hampshire, but some of Mass too. And so in a period,
like shows every weekend, run the shit, or
in a period of 2 years. The first year he ran, I think we counted it over 70 shows, which is a lot for us. I mean, that's
for an indie promotion for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's. And then the next year he ran about 50. Okay, and then a guy that was working for him as the Wolfman. Wrestling has been an odd series of occurrences for me.
We know
there was a guy named.
Too. We watched Wolfman's retirement match. The Kowalski guy.
No, he wasn't a Kowalski guy.
Not the guy with the chains. A different Wolfman.
There have been so many different Wolfmen, for Christ's sake. Well, this particular Wolfman, and he wrestles a couple of different things for Jeff. He was Merlin the Wizard, and it was like I said, Jeff loved his fucking gimmicks.
Did everybody if you look in your cell phone, is it still filled with just weird ass names of people?
No.
Okay.
No.
My phone's strange. I always think if somebody looked at my phone, they'd be like,
"Yep,
what the hell's Creeper? What does that mean?"
So, but there was a guy that the guy Jason Sanderson is his real name, and he won the Powerball. He won,
legit won.
Legit won $50 million.
Yeah.
So then he decided he was gonna financed the shows himself, and but oddly enough, he was financing the shows, and the number of shows actually went down. And he concentrated more on bringing in guys like Valentine and stuff, and and running, trying to get, rather than Jeff had a formula. Jeff was low rent, high volume, and that's what we did. And sometimes, so if we had a bomb scare, it was okay. But when on the shows where he did 150, 200 people,
right,
which he did sometimes,
low overhead.
Yeah, low overhead.
You can make some coin.
And guys like me. I don't know how the other guys were compensated on the shows. Usually it was kind of crappy, like anywhere else. Like anywhere else. But if you're kind of at the top,
one of his guys.
Yeah, if you're kind of at the top, sometimes he usually took care of you a little better.
Right.
So and if it was a good show, like I remember I did a National Guard Armory for him one time. I think it was in Milford, New Hampshire, and it worked the opening match as I would frequently do, and
which is the best spot on the shows.
Most times sounds really good, but we would do the opening match or the second match, and then I would get disqualified, and a babyface would come and run in, and then I'd be doing the title match at the end of the night. So it was busy. I was busy as hell.
Right.
But and then of course, part of being member of Jeff's crew was we all break the ring down, we all put it away.
Team.
You're not, if you're not, you're a fucking bag carrier. So it was like the worst thing to be for Jeff. So but he gave me like $300 at the end of that show. Right. I was like, Jesus Christ,
it's a good night in wrestling.
Yeah, not too bad.
It's a good night anyway. Really.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, this is a pretty solid way to make a.
He gave me the money. I was like, so we're going to blow you?
Did you miscount this? Or am I supposed to split this with everybody else?
Am I in charge of paydays? What's going on here? It seems like excessive payroll.
It's a little high. So you got the Money Man back in the shows, and you said the shows started...
Yeah, and then the shows were fine, but it was different because it just, it shifted from running so many shows to
fewer shows, but
fewer shows. They used to start running a place called St. Stan's Hall in Nashua, which was a place that held probably legit about 500 people, maybe more. Really, when Vince did his summer runs, I think he actually used to throw a couple of his sub-main event guys there. Kind of like when they did the high school shows and stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, right in here, the Armory's right down the street.
The Bank Street Armory. Yeah, I've wrestled there before.
Oh yeah, for Joe or for?
That would have been for. Who was that for? No, that was Scott. It was a benefit for. We used to call him Shooter.
Scotty Scotland.
Yeah,
that's the Spotlight. Yeah. We know Shooter.
He had
the benefit for his nephew.
Yes, he ran two. He did that World 1 and then
the 0-1.
Yeah, 0-1. That was it. And then he did. And then we did that one at the Bank Street Armory, which went a lot better actually.
Because the first one was at the Portuguese Club
on
Main Street or something?
Yeah.
But that
didn't really hold that many people.
Right. But those shows, he brought in like CM Punk, like a lot of these guys who like went on to to be some pretty big names.
I almost beat the shit out of CM Punk on that show.
in the locker room? Or
in the locker room.
Do you mind delving into that? Or
well, what the fuck's he going to do to me?
That's a good point.
Do I mind delving into that? So I had a ring that was set up just basically to practice in, and somebody backed out on the ring at the last minute, and I think it was Bobby Cruz talked me into trying to. I kept telling him, "Listen, this fucking thing is like welded together in place, and where I'm practicing with it." So so the ring was,
it's not going to move.
But I need a free ring. I'll do what I can for you. I came down, and of course the ring was pretty shaky. I had to listen to everybody on the show fucking bitch and moan and bitch and moan and bitch and moan and bitch and moan and bitch and moan. And, bear in mind, this isn't really even CM Punk's fault, although I guess people have told me before he can rub people the wrong way really bad. Yeah. So
everybody
I was in a
catch somebody on a bad day.
Fucking rotten mood. Right. I'm in a charity show. I've listened to everybody in the world.
Dude, I got this ring for free for you guys. Yeah. Shut up.
Listen to this guy, so fucking, it was, Dr. Heresy was whistling backstage, and all of a sudden, fucking CM Punk kind of started going off. Who the fuck is whistling? Shut that fucking whistling up! What the fuck is? I was like, and I was just so fucking mad. I was just almost fucking happy to have somebody to fucking vent on.
Shit, hell yeah.
So I looked at fucking this guy, and I had no idea who he was.
Right.
I was like, I looked at Dr. Harrison, and I looked at him, and I said, keep fucking whistling. Fucking whistle fucking louder. Whistle fucking Dixie. I'm going to get you a fucking megaphone to whistle, and you're going to put it in his fucking ear.
Just flip
And
it.
he's like, bro, what's your... Shut that fuck up! He's like, fucking whatever. And he walked away. And So, I didn't job him quite as quick as he did in the UFC, but, hey. So.
Man, like pro wrestling, sometimes people get a little heated, and you're in a locker room filled with dudes, usually all testosteroned up.
Yeah.
Like it's easy to get into an argument with somebody.
Yeah, I remember the nicest guy I ever met on that show was I think that guy Spanky.
Yeah, Brian Kendrick.
Yeah, he was
Super cool dude.
Yeah, very, very nice guy. And then there were a couple others. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Sometimes, man, you just meet a person, you just can't click with them. You just can't do it.
Yeah.
You can't force it, and you can't do it. But so I'm trying to think of what year was that? The Spotlight stuff.
Oh Jesus, where?
011 was like 2003. I feel like we jumped ahead again, right?
Yeah. That would have been sometime after the One Ring of Honor show I did. So
Okay, yeah, you did Honor Invades Boston, right?
yes, I did. That was actually
What was the connection there?
To be quite frank with you, I really. Technically, I don't know that it was working for Ring of Honor. It was working for Sheldon Goldberg. They were coming in for the first time,
Right.
And Sheldon did some promotional work for them. So
For a while, Sheldon worked with them, right?
So they had a New England Championship Wrestling feature match,
Okay.
which would have been me and Alex Arian. Which the match was what it was. It was a truncated version of probably every other match I ever
you
did with
guys-
Alex Arian because we had 6 minutes, which was fine, But that was really the first time I was really starting to get introduced to that whole environment where
That
these guys
style
were
of wrestling.
really picking up their spots.
Yeah,
and
doing a lot.
yeah, and and I remember wrestling sensibilities being what they were at the time. I was like, fuck,
Slow
I couldn't.
down. What's wrong
Well,
with you
slow
guys?
down. What the fuck? What do you mean? What do you mean this guy's a fucking? What do you mean this guy's a fucking heel? Fucking. What does that make these two gay guys a Christopher Street connection?
Yeah.
Were they fucking baby faces? Oh, they are. Oh, fucking hell. The fuck.
Damn, and they were over too.
These
Like,
guys, guys are making out in the ring, or baby. Remember the sensibilities of the time. Please don't judge me too
Real
much.
different.
Yeah, it was really. I was like, what the fuck is this? And then I remember low key. It was the first time I ever met him, and he was warming up by repeatedly kicking the wall as hard as he could. I remember looking at him going, if I was that wall, I'd start fucking fighting back.
Right, yeah. That wall
But he
was
worked with Brian
terrifying.
Danielson that night, I believe,
Right.
and who was really nice.
Yeah.
Good guy. I mean, there were some good guys there. And,
course, right.
it's just like any other locker room. There's some good guys and some fucking mooks.
See, I always found myself gravitating towards like the Brian Danielsons of the ROH back then, like the guys that would go out and just.
Yeah, I mean, he was still probably, he was probably still going too fast for Vince's sensibilities
Right.
at that
Yeah,
point.
for sure.
But, what was he? Was he a Shawn Michaels trainee?
Yeah,
I believe he
like
was.
a Texas wrestling a lot.
Yeah.
Rudy Boy Gonzalez trained.
Yeah,
some of
he
those
was a
guys.
really talented guy.
Yeah.
Jesus, he was good.
No, did you see it back then that he was good, or I mean, like.
Yeah, he was the one that really grabbed my attention on
Stood
that
out
show.
there, yeah.
Because I know Tony DeVito was on the show as the what were they working as at that point?
The Hit Squad?
Yes, I think that was
No, Hit Squad.
No, Hit Squad wasn't the other guys they were working with
Right.
actually.
Oh my God, Loca DeVito.
Yes,
Took
and
me a second, but I
yeah. And so I know Tony, from a time doing jobs,
Right,
for about a
yeah,
year.
so
He
was doing it too, right?
yeah, and but I was watching Christopher Daniels going, Jesus Christ, this guy's really good.
Yeah, Daniels. I always,
Yeah.
he's still so good, and like
And,
I can't believe.
And the
how
other thing I would
good he
think is, geez, I'm really not all that fucking good.
it's not looking around like, damn it, I think I'm the. It's like,
that was becoming increasingly apparent as time went on. How am I going to keep up?
So your connection was through Sheldon, and it's funny because like we went to that Honor Remains Boston show, and then the next show they did was Glory by Honor, and that was in Philly, and we were in a van with Sheldon and Alex Arion, and we.
I have a story about this. You were on that van.
We were in that van.
I want
to know the story. What's the story?
So, Alex Arion, they used him a few times,
Right,
actually.
yeah.
You know, they used him probably about 4 or 5 times.
I think that was the same trip we picked up Doug Williams, right? From the airport, yeah.
So he told me the story. We were actually, he was telling me and a kid named Justin Shape at a NECW show in Somerville at the old Good Times Emporium. Okay, so we're talking to him.
That place, they closed it.
I have an affinity for they demoed it because too many people were shot and stabbed there. But
is that the official reason?
That's the reason I'm stating.
I'm so.
There seemed to be a stabbing there every show.
Yeah.
So, anyways, me and Justin were talking to Alex, and we're at, what the hell happened? He went down to Philly, and they didn't use him on the show.
Right.
He told me that. Well, Gabe Sapolsky, is that the name?
Gabe Sapolsky.
Yeah, Sapolsky.
Yeah.
It was close.
It's not bad. Yeah.
Yeah. So I only worked for the guy once. You think I'd know his fucking name.
At one time, it's not that bad. You
So
don't remember his name.
he told me Gabe had booked him, and he didn't have any other ride, so he went on that
the van thing.
Yeah, so he gets on the van bus thing. And he's like, I'm riding down with the. No offense to you guys, I'm riding down with all these fucking marks.
Right,
And,
yeah, no, we were.
you probably were at that
Right,
time.
yeah,
Yeah.
we were
Okay. I'm glad
excited to be
glad
there.
this comes up. So this kind of shows you what kind of a fucking asshole I can be. And he had said, well, he said he went down there and Gabe had told him he was working with a guy, Prince Nana.
Yeah.
Okay. And he got
He
there.
got skinny out of nowhere.
Yep.
He was like a big fat black dude.
Yep.
Became a real skinny black dude.
So he got down there and Gabe said, I didn't book you. So he didn't work. And of course, he's expecting a sympathetic ear.
Right.
Wrong fucking guy.
Yeah.
I looked at him, I said, No. You misunderstood, Gabe. When you asked him if you were booked, he didn't say, "Yeah, you're booked with Nana." He said, "Nana, you're not booked."
That's funny because he was in the van with us there and back, and I always wondered why wasn't he on the show?
I have to imagine he was, and they thought they had too much going on, and
And
cut him.
when they advertised this bus, they said a bus.
Yeah.
Yeah, they told
With a sweet big screen TV.
Mm-hmm.
We got a little minivan with a VHS TV thing.
like a conversion van.
Oh, okay. There you go.
With a little VHS TV plugged into the dash.
Did it have a genuine child molester driving it?
Quite possibly. I think he may have already been at the show.
Okay. Well, he got booked, and Alex didn't. Okay, good.
But Sheldon was there, and Alex Arion, Doug Williams was asleep laid across a whole set of seats himself.
Yep.
It's just a weird small world, right?
Probably,
It all comes-
probably fresh in from England.
right? Yeah, I'm assuming he just flew in and just immediately passed out. Mm-hmm. But so you got the one shot. Was it just never brought up again to do any more ROH?
Yeah, I mean, I actually kind of want to do another one, and I remember sending a couple emails to Gabe. I said, did you like the match? If you like the match, I knew he was using Alex again, so I kind of leaned on that a little. If you like the match,
we can do it again.
If you like the match, it takes 2 guys to do that match, So, but I never heard back from him again, and I think that was probably that was before or after. You were talking about Doug Williams. I worked with Doug Williams his very first match in the United States.
Really?
Yes, I did.
That was for NECW?
That was for Sheldon.
Yep.
Yes. That was in.
Sheldon always had these weird connections to these.
Yeah,
I don't know how it happened or where it
I
happened.
didn't either, because when I started working for Sheldon, I was splitting time between Sheldon. It was probably when I was most busy. I was splitting time between him and Jeff Costa, and
Right.
so it was,
So you just all over.
working probably close to 100 plus shows a year at that point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. At least twice a weekend.
Yeah. So so. I don't know. Sheldon said, I get this guy, Doug Williams, coming from England I want you to wrestle with, which, okay, that's fine. I have no idea who this guy is. And, it was an okay match. I could tell the guy had some talent, and it's just, but I was, like at that point in my life, I know you can't tell by looking at me now. Now I weigh about 280 pounds, but I was like a fitness nut, and like I would like run 6 miles before the shows, and I'd come in, I was exhausted. So I probably didn't give the guy everything he could have had, in the first match. But nice guy, very talented. I ended up working 3 matches with him. He was really. I remember the second time I worked with him, he laid one of the rolling German suplexes on me.
Yeah. That was the first time I've seen the chaos.
Holy, I was like, what the hell is this goddamn thing?
That's what I was saying.
Of course, I'm so goddamn stupid. I'm like, the next time we work, because we knew, the second time he came in, we knew he was coming back for a third time. Yeah. Said, the next time we do this, what you had to do is do the thing Benoit does, but do 3 of them right in a row. We'll just keep coming to our feet, and I was done. Well, I was just full of stupid fucking ideas like that. It's like, dude, fucking. It was like you think they would only do 3 times the spinal damage, probably did 10 times the spinal damage. Just keep doing this.
Now, were you at your busiest? You're working for Sheldon on the regular, or
yep.
And Jeff Costa. How did the Jeff? We keep getting off subject. It's cool. How did the Jeff Costa show stop?
Like I said,
you had that guy who won the Powerball. Where's that guy? Because I need to go ask him for a loan.
He's a character.
I think he blew through all that money with all his Greg DeHalen Valentine.
No, he didn't actually. He
Valentine $400.
No, actually, in a strange occurrence, he took the you can take a lump sum and you take an annuity.
Right.
Okay. Well, he decided to take it over 20 years. So
I think I would go with that choice too.
Okay, so it sounds really good. So he got his first check like 2 months before January, and then they give him this second check right before January 1st. He got double nailed for taxes.
Oh, from the year.
He was actually the poor money. Bastard. He's like, you got $20 I could borrow, Mav? Jesus Christ,
dude.
But yeah, so and he just kind of lost interest after a while, which happens,
right?
And that's it was like a kind of a 4 or 5 year stretch between him and Jeff, and it was kind of neat, it was different.
Now, after he lost interest, did Jeff just didn't want to put money back into the shows and take over himself again, or?
Yeah, I think that was pretty much it because the guys that had been running. Jeff ran under so many different names. It was, I wouldn't even go into the alphabet soup that it is.
Right.
So eventually, Wolfman called it AWA, All-Star Wrestling Association, I believe, or whatever. Don't ask me to remember these combinations of alphabet soup. It's just, there's been so many of them.
You want to look up some wrestling promotion, just pick 3 letters, put it into Google.
Yeah, and you get 3,000 of the goddamn things. But he had actually put guys on payroll, I don't want to be revealing too much, but Jeff Costa was one of them,
right?
And after that, he was like, I just don't think he was all that interested in possibly trying to start it, losing his money. So
Now, was it? I'm assuming sad to see those times go, but
those are my glory years because
that's what
that was fondly. That was the funnest time I ever spent in wrestling. Right. Even after Wolfman bought into it, it wasn't quite as fun. That was when I first started wrestling a guy who was actually down from this area. He came out of Seekonk. His name was Mike Valancourt, Rip Morrison.
Okay, Rip Morrison.
So it's a shame that a lot of guys don't know who this guy is.
Yeah.
Rick Fuller could tell you a quick story about him. Rick
Fuller is another person I want to try to get on the cast.
Mike was about the same height as I am, if not maybe an inch shorter, but he was really stocky looking. He always looked like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle the way he was built.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just real short and wide.
So Rip's just starting to train. So he picks up Fuller for the slam, and they're going to do Andre and Hogan, and he's going to fall backwards. Rip, being the destructive fucking maniacal bumper that he was, he just snapped back and landed with Rick Fuller on top, who probably weighed legitimately about 3 to 30 pounds at that point. Yeah. And Rick Fuller got up and something fucking wrong with you, But that was the way he was. Right. He was just incredible. I mean, he would, he started working for Jeff Costa before I did, and Jeff Costa used to tell me the story. He said, "The fucking kid. Yeah, he'd come in, he'd break my fucking ring every fucking time. so I'd put him on the final match every night. It's like that for he's like that. It's like 3 shows in a row. I put him in a final match. So he came in, and Rip was salted to you. One of the nicest guys you could ever meet. Another reason I wish more guys knew of him. He went up and
Just
said,
a good dude.
Mr. Costa, I'd like to thank you for putting all these main events. And Jeff looked at him and said, main events? You're not in a main event. You're on fucking last. You keep breaking a fucking ring. But I started working with him. It was, it was just, he was probably the best babyface I ever wrestled.
Right.
He was just so good, and he always called himself the short fat kid, and it ended up looking, it looked like when I was wrestling him, it looked like a jock just kicking the shit out of the fucking short fat kid.
Right.
But then he was big enough and stocky enough when he would come back, and he sold it so well, and he'd just destroy himself
Fans
on.
would just get behind him.
He'd destroy himself on bumps. You just look at, what are you doing to yourself? You'd look down and you'd feel concerned. What are you doing down there? You alive? So I will say I've wrestled some really good guys over the years, including I was just telling you about Doug Williams, who at one point may have been one of the best in the world.
Yeah, for sure. Doug Williams was so good. And
I've wrestled famous guys. I've never had better matches than I had with this one guy in these tiny little halls all over New Hampshire.
That's the stuff that, like you said, when you look back on it, those are the fond memories. The ones that are there forever. Like,
and those were like the exclamation points for working for Jeff. There was always other fond memories.
Of course.
Jeff and his gimmicks, he would just come up with shit you wouldn't believe. It just, one night we had wrestling in 3D. Yeah,
so just
live wrestling in 3D. So he did a radio interview, and he always wrestled like the same 5 guys because he didn't trust a lot of guys.
Right.
It'd be me or Rip or a guy named Captain USA, whose real name was Danny Patiglio, who had trained with Walter.
Okay.
And so he gets on the radio. I think it was with Jeff Katz. They're interviewing him, and he goes, "And we're doing it. We're having wrestling live at Lobster Vision," because he used to wrestle as a Lobster Man, too.
Right. Yes.
Lobster Vision in 3D. And the radio interviewer was like, no, Lobster Man. Yeah. It's live wrestling, right? Yeah. So it's already in 3D. See, I'm not even lying to anybody. And it's just, of course, Jeff was great with these ideas that look flashy on a poster.
Right,
no idea how he was going to take care of it that night, Then we ended up setting strobe lights up around the ring and stuff. And the only reason he wanted to do this 3D match is because he went to some comparable to a Dollar General. He found a bunch of old-fashioned movie 3D
like the
glasses.
blue and the red.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. So, no, not pass out. If you wanted to see this match in 3D in Lobster Vision, you had to pay an extra $1.50 for the glasses.
Oh, that's so good.
So, as we often did when Jeff would do one of his bone gimmicks, we'd all be at the door going, how the fuck is this going to look?
Locker room sellout.
Right? Oh, yeah. I just, there was 150 people there. He did a good house. So, and of course, he tagged them for their $11 a ticket plus another $1.50 for their fucking Lobster Vision glasses. So, true to fucking form, this fucking guy can't fucking leave it alone. He can't be happy. You got 150 assholes to come watch this, right? He's out walking around the fucking ring, fucking waving his arms in people's face. It's like you're right there.
That's so ridiculous.
And he walks around the ring doing this for 10 minutes. He finally gets in the ring and he locks up with Captain USA. And Captain USA whispers here, "Can you believe all these fucking assholes in their fucking 3D glasses?"
I believe they bought these glasses.
He would just do shit like that. He had a wrestling goat.
A wrestling goat.
Yeah. Well, this
guy in a goat costume?
Nope.
An actual goat.
A real wrestling goat. They found a farmer somewhere up on the seacoast of New Hampshire that had a goat named Binks.
Okay.
And he used to claim he used to wrestle. he used to wrestle his goat, which sounds pretty fucking frightening when you think about it. Weird. But so one of the guys found out about this, and they fucking said, "Jeff, I get this guy in a hook. He says he's got a wrestling goat." Well, you gotta fucking buck him.
Bring him down.
So they brought him down to the Hudson Lions Club, the farmer. They put a mask on the farmer, and he was going to do what he supposedly was going to wrestle his goat. So the goat had obviously never wrestled in front of people.
Probably freaked out. Right?
Oh, had the average. Every worker has their first jitters, and
right.
It's a fucking goat. The fucking thing. They put it in the ring with the farmer, and the fucking thing jumps out of the ring and says, shit, run around. Finally, they made it to... There was a guy named Butcher Hughes. He's corralling the fucking thing. Get him in the fucking ring. Right. Finally, get him in the ring, and the fucking farmer grabs him by the horns and pulls him on top of him for the fucking pin.
For the pin.
So, and of course, Jeff Costa could never leave it alone. Fucking, here he goes. They did that match during intermission. Nope. Jeff had to challenge the goat to a cage match.
That way I couldn't run out of the ring. Right?
Yeah, well, no, I challenged Big the goat to a fucking cage match. And he's standing in his fucking lobster outfit. We got a wrestling goat and a lobster.
I'm surprised they didn't put the mask on the goat. That would have been good.
Jesus. It was the gimmicks that he just, oh, my God.
Now, we like I mentioned before, he had taken some notes. He was reading off to me your title accomplishments, which is just too many. I told him he just needs to stop reading it. Is there a promotion in this area that you haven't wrestled for?
Maybe since about 2005, 2006, maybe. When I started cutting down on my own schedule and promoting my own shows up in the... Well, it was more like 2007, 2008. No, probably not too much, no.
Yeah, not too many places?
No, not really. I mean, I'm sure there's some new places that have cropped up, in the last 8 or 9 years,
But, so you worked with Chaotic.
Yes.
How did the Chaotic stuff come about?
That really kind of was a bit of natural progression. I mean, they ran the school basically for the money, and from what I could see, I may have the business model off somewhat,
right?
But Jamie ran the school, and the shows were an extension of the school, and he had, from what I could see, some of the guys were greener, and I think he needed somebody to come in and be able to, kind of corral some of the younger guys and
get him a little more focused.
Yeah, because he had John Walters and he had Louis Ortiz.
John Walters is great,
who were spectacular.
Right.
But they really weren't all that experienced at working with younger talent. And
right.
I was. One thing I will never say.
You'd be a great wrestler and not a very good teacher.
I wouldn't even say that. I just think they were at a point where they hadn't done that really.
Right.
And I had spent years doing that.
Yeah.
So, it's just, so they were a lot flashier than me at that point, but I just kind of knew how to break it down more basically with some of the guys.
Right.
And they felt fairly comfortable with me, so that's kind of how I would go down to school every once in a while, and and that's
give a hand down there.
Yeah, that was kind of how it worked out, really.
Ended up on the shows because of that.
Ended up on the shows, and then they kind of saw that I was good working with some of the younger guys and stuff, and it was like, well, just so eventually they made me, for whatever it's worth, they made me the champion.
Yeah,
and usually I spent more time working with the younger guys as the champion, with guys like Chase Del Monte, who's still there.
I say a lot of the guys that I'm sure that are now like the headliner guys.
Yeah,
there.
Yeah, and and then every once in a while I'd get a Louis Ortiz or a John Walters.
Yeah,
and
go there and go.
Yep, and I will say this. John Walters is really good. He was very good. At that point, though, he really kind of only knew how to wrestle one way.
Right.
I guess is the best way to put it.
Right.
Yeah. And he would stretch me in some god-awful positions.
Like,
and I have had problems with my flexibility since I was in my late 20s.
Right.
And now I'm getting into my early closing on my mid-30s, and this guy's just stretching me in all these ungodly positions. And I don't know if John even remembers it this way, but I remember I had a couple of matches with him, and I was like, well, I think I've had enough of this.
Right.
So I remember we went on the outside the ring, and he's tagging me with chops, And I just, I've had enough. And I just started flooring him in the head as hard as I could.
Right, just
watch his head roll the back of his, Then he had me in some weird, you hook the leg and you bridge back and you hook the guy into the chin when you're on your belly. I knew the reversal for that, and it's a bitch. You're going to slide your arm on the guy's chin.
Yeah.
You yank him over the top of you, and it hurts like a son of a bitch. I just had him in it. I could hear him.
So you two are just out there just grappling with each other.
I was fucking like, that's it. That's getting a little too real, John.
So when was it when you started to realize that maybe it was time to start slowing down on the bookings and taking less bookings yourself?
Probably sometime after Chaotic, I was starting to slow down a little, but I was still working and helping Jeremy. Probably when I started segueing and trying to help Dr. Heresy promote the EWA, and then especially when I started promoting my own shows, because I ran about 18 shows a year myself, so it wasn't,
So it's not like you weren't busy yourself.
No, I was, and then I was running a gym in Nashua, See, after Jeff closed, because those were like the best years of my life,
right?
As far as, not best years of my life, but the best years of wrestling
career, yeah.
You
try to recreate that kind of
thing? And I just didn't, I couldn't do it,
Was it were you
part of it was
taking over the school?
Part of it was distance, because I wasn't,
that close.
Yeah, I wasn't that close,
right,
and and the guys that I had working for me tried very hard, but it's like if you're not personally there to direct them, I don't think it works,
Right. So I was gonna ask if opening your own school and teaching was ever an idea for
because I basically
not a career, but
I basically see when Wolfman got the money and he never took over the gym. Jeff always ran that,
right.
So when all that went by the wayside, I just segued into running the gym.
The gym, okay.
And so then I was training guys out of Nashua for quite a while, and I enjoyed that quite a bit, actually. Yeah.
More than wrestling, or less than wrestling, more than promoting?
I think eventually I enjoyed that more than actually wrestling.
Right.
At that point, I was getting pretty, I was starting to get a little soft in the body. And,
right.
Not so much soft in the body-wise, that's now, but I'm, getting more broken up,
Right. It's harder to recover after...
Yeah, I really started noticing the recuperative powers starting to go south at about 36, 37.
That's when the next mornings it was a little rough.
Yeah, and that's really kind of when I started promoting matches and things of that nature.
Gotcha.
So.
So you start promoting and all that. When was your actual last match? Was there like a retirement deal?
No, I see.
Or was it you just kind of?
So Brian Fury right now is about to do a retirement match
currently.
Next week.
He's doing his rounds, right?
And
last time you'll see him here.
And he actually enticed Alex Arian to come back to do it, which is great. For me, I never thought of myself as like, well, I think I said way earlier tonight that I never really made any money at this, so how am I going to have a fucking retirement?
It's more like quitting than retiring, right?
Yeah, it's like it's an old Rodney Dangerfield. It's an old Rodney Dangerfield joke where he retired, and the only problem was he was the only person who fucking knew about it when he first started comedy. So I always seemed kind of presumptuous to have a retirement thing.
Gotcha.
So I stopped in 2010, 11? Yeah, I remember the last show I did for quite a while was a ballpark in Western Mass, out towards it was in Pittsfield, I think. That was for the EWA. That was for Dr. Heresy. And then I stopped, and I probably took about 3.5 years off.
Right.
Now
that last match, was it the match specifically that made you want to stop? Or?
No. I hadn't actually wrestled in probably many months at that point.
At that point, okay.
And
so you had
Dr. Heresy talked me to come in and do it because
right.
and then so I always said, because I'm fucking full of myself, I said, well, I could come back to this if I wanted to.
There'd be no problem.
Nah, I could do
into
this
it.
again. So then I decided, well, I'm going to fucking do it. So about 2.5 years ago, I had about a year where I came back.
Right.
And it was, I didn't expect it to be like it was before. I'm not stupid. I know my body had a lot of more limitations than it did. But, it it was fine. You know, I had some really shitty matches, and I had some pretty decent ones.
How did you feel about it? Worth coming back.
All in all, yeah, for the
overall
for the feeling of accomplishment, you know,
right, yeah.
For the feeling that I can do this, for the feeling that I'm not a complete fucking anchor to younger guys. You know, the matches that were better were guys that were more familiar with what I did, and and the matches that weren't were guys that were just used to going about. It's like and them trying to slow down, and they'd want to talk a whole bunch. I was like, I can't. It's not the way I do it. Yeah, and that definitely has changed quite a bit.
I know that it's happened to me a few times where I'm at shows and I don't even have my boots laced yet, and somebody's in my ear, yapping at me, and I'm like, dude, like he's seen me do it because I'll get frustrated occasionally, and I'm like, dude, just let me put my boots on.
Like one on one, I could take that, but like all of a sudden you're starting getting these like. There's a tag team over there. There's a tag team over there. There's a tag team over in that corner, and we want to talk about all this stuff. And that was a specific situation, and I just zoned it out. Fucking whatever. Just fucking tell me when to go.
Trainee says that because it's usually me yapping in his ear. So.
Yeah, it's just.
Man, give me a minute.
Now, in 2010, you were introduced to the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Yep. So that probably wasn't about the last year I was wrestling too. Yeah.
Well, how'd you feel about that, and how did that come about?
Into the Hall of Fame?
That was Dr. Heresy, actually.
Was it your inductor? Is that what they're called?
Yeah, I think we double induced ourselves because I think I got him.
He did you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now those Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame things are pretty cool. They bring in some pretty decent names. They do like a whole dinner for the fans.
Yep.
It's like a whole deal.
Yeah. It was neat. Now, to be honest with you, I remember I had put my buddy Rip in on a show down in this area, and before it was a banquet and everything like that. They used to do it for a show, or at intermission during a show. And if you know anything about me, I love the old carnival attitude, and I love the smaller stuff. I love going in there and digging. And just one of the other reasons I didn't, once I did TV for a while, I would get sick of it because I never liked the televised process.
Such a big thing.
Yeah, and it was like I want to get in there. It's like trench war. I like that. I've always liked that.
It's funny too because you get that with a lot of live performers that enjoy the smaller atmospheres, the more intimate atmospheres than like stand-up comedians like doing clubs more than they like doing like not arenas but like the opera houses and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean that's just always been me. I like that attitude. I like that presentation of a show.
Right.
I just
that's what makes you think. When you think wrestling, you think.
For lack of a better term, I don't like it when it's presented as something bigger than it actually is.
Right.
And that's a little bit how the New England Hall of Fame deal kind of looked to me. It's a little bigger than it actually is.
Gotcha.
It's like,
bigger than.
It's like
too big for its
to me. It's like I'd rather to me I'd rather done it
been something smaller
at a show, and we go out and get fucking Chinese food afterwards.
Right. Yeah, okay, that much more up your alley.
Definitely. That's kind of my way of doing things.
So it wasn't like this big heartfelt moment when.
Well, it was with Dr. Heresy because Dr. Heresy's like one of my best friends.
Right. One of your,
ever. I mean, when I inducted him, I had relayed a story. Is about a year before that, his father died of a massive heart attack.
Yeah.
And he was at the hospital when he called me when it happened, and I just remember, he was crying and breaking up, and I got what hospital it was. It was somewhere down, in the western Worcester area, and I just looked at my wife and said, he didn't ask for me to go. I don't think he wanted me to go. It was just like, I'm fucking going.
I'm going, yeah.
I drove down there and saw his mom, and and he was losing it, and it was a great
tough situation for sure.
If there'd been a sunset involved, it'd been very romantic. But it's just it's he's
in wrestling. It's tough to make like real close friends.
Yeah, he was one of them.
Rip
Morrison was one of them. I just Jeff to a lesser extent, probably was one of them.
Right.
You know, although there
You
was
said that
more
was
of a
like a protege kind of.
yeah. There was more of a
You were
mentor.
like buddies.
Yeah, we were. I just saw
You
him
had both.
last week. In fact, you know,
Well, that's
so,
cool. Yeah.
yeah,
So you had both kind of. You were
yeah. Oh yeah.
now the Hall of Fame thing. You said that was around the same year that you had stopped.
Probably right. Yeah, so I think I stopped in around 2011.
Around that time.
Yeah.
2000. Oh, I'm trying to think. 2011. Now, is there any inkling, any desire to do something else? Come back again, or
That's not going to happen at this
No,
point.
no.
See, I had
If
my
a promoter
last
reaches out.
my last match would have been a year and a half, 2 years ago. I was up in Laconia, and I was having a lot of low back problems at that point, and I was the week after the weekend was over, I was supposed to go have knee surgery, and
getting that last match in before the knee surgery?
That was in May.
Very wrestler thing to do.
Not last year, but the year before, and that was with what the hell's he call himself now? He's on Ring of Honor now. Hanson. What the hell's his name?
Oh, Warbeard Hanson. So
Warbeard
he was
Hanson.
with
Yes.
Handsome Jimmy.
Yeah. So, yep. So, you know, and I was like, I went up there, did the match, and I felt, you know, my back was already, I was having a lot of problems with my low back at that point. And during the match, I felt my knee kind of hyperextend, but I wasn't too concerned about it because I was having it operated on the following Monday.
They'll fix
Yeah,
it.
typical fucking wrestler, you know. So they did my knee, and during the knee operation, they told me they had to. It's the fucking drug. It's a drug there. They had to inject. It's the drug they're cutting all the heroin with now.
Oh, fentanyl.
Fentanyl. They had to inject fentanyl in me because I was having such back spasms.
I don't know why I know that answer. I'm
Twitching
sorry.
because it's you know because I was just twitching out on the table
Right.
so bad. So while I was recovering from my knee, my back really went bad, you know. So I ended up in the emergency room about three or
This is all,
four
like,
times
right
with
after.
my back, and you know I had a couple of herniated discs in my low back.
Yeah.
And they'd probably been that way for years. I just
Right, but
finally
they just happened to-
because I remember during the match with Hanson. Actually, I remember I went to throw him over my shoulder, and he's so much bigger than he used to be.
thick dude, yeah.
It's like I used to wrestle with him when he weighed about 245, and now he was
Now,
about
I was
280,
gonna
and I'm
say,
thinking
he's an easy
still the
280
same
now.
kid, and I go to heave him over my back, and he kind of got stuck there. I was like, oh, felt something go, and you know, so and that did it, and you know, as far as coming back. I was just an orthopedic surgeon about 5 weeks ago, and he told me I'd need total knee replacement in my left knee, which is a double curse because I have neuropathy from my knee down to my foot on the left side as well from all the nerve damage I did to my low back. So, you know, I'm not coming back.
Right, so just no.
No.
It's funny, you brought up Dr. Heresy, and it's funny because one of my first matches, singles matches that I ever had, I wrestled Johnny Idol,
Yep.
and Marshall McNeil was managing, but they were all together.
Ooh,
Like,
Marshalls.
They had all traveled to the show together.
Yep.
And when you had posted just recently that you were going to come down to the podcast, Johnny mentioned it,
Mm-hmm.
and I brought it up to him. So I think we're going to have Johnny Idol on the podcast. That's Mack news.
Yeah, that's some Mac news.
But he was one of the first matches I have had, and Dr. Heresy, I remember at the end of the night, he seen me and he went, "You're the kid that Johnny wrestled?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You did good. Keep it up. Don't suck." And then he walked away. And that was like the only interaction I've ever had with him like in life. From like as wrestler, not like wrestler to fan.
He pretty much stopped wrestling around the same time I did.
Right.
You know? So.
It's kind of funny. Now, how did was it through Buddy Romano that you had heard about the Matt cast, or
I think that was it.
was Buddy talking about it? Yeah.
Yeah, Buddy's on my page, of course, on my Facebook.
Right.
You know, he's on Facebook, and I know him, and so I saw he did it, and boy, that was a rather gut wrenching, honest fucking thing.
Buddy is not one to hold back any.
No.
He wants to come on again after his surgery, and
Yeah.
I'm totally down to have him on again. But
I mean, I'm a fairly honest guy with my flaws
Sure,
and stuff,
right.
but holy shit, dude.
He went in.
Yeah, I mean,
He apparently hates Beyond Wrestling.
Yeah,
great deal.
I don't even think I know the guy who runs that thing.
Right, yeah.
But it's just the whole thing with he's sitting at home popping Ambien and drinking all day long, and he's talking to people in slow motion. Holy fuck, dude!
Yeah, damn.
I've had a couple low moments in my life, but wow,
Not quite. Yeah.
and I don't know if I'd care to divulge them like that.
Right, to be that open about it, yeah.
I applaud him. I really do.
Being so honest, yeah. It takes guts to openly talk about some of the stuff that he was mentioning.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that we had that there was that connection made, man, because I enjoyed having you on and getting to tell some stories. Is there any advice that you'd give to any kids breaking in, even kids that have been wrestling for a while?
Yeah. Don't take it so fucking seriously. I mean, if you go back to the Beyond the Mat movie,
Yeah.
It was with Terry Funk and Mick Foley were having a conversation, and I believe Terry Funk said something to the effect of, "Well, why the fuck do we all get into this? Because it's so fucking fun,
Right?
Yeah. If you're not having fun with it, if the only way you look at this. And I know I'm a terrible guy to give career advice, but I can say this. If
You've done some cool shit.
the only way you look at it is this is a career, this is a career, this is a career, this is like carrying a briefcase, this is like walking on Wall Street,
Right.
this is like stocks and bonds. No, it's fucking not. It's supposed to be fucking fun.
It's supposed to be different.
Fucking best guys at this who are ever any good at this always had fucking fun with it.
Right. You could tell just out.
You could watch Ric Flair in the ring, and when he was feeling it, you could tell.
Flair's out
he
there
was having fucking
a good
fun,
time.
And I've seen very few people where that doesn't hold true. Like
Austin, Hogan, Rock.
yeah,
Like
very few. Like Bret Hart was like one of the few people who looked like. Yeah, it just
all the time.
And I guess part of that was just the family connection, but
Right.
but the guys,
Bret is a guy who seemed to take it maybe a little too serious.
yeah, I mean, but hey, whatever, got a hell of a career.
For sure. He's one of the greatest wrestlers of all
If
time.
you read his book, he definitely did enjoy some of what he did.
Oh, yeah. His book is great. It's
Yeah.
huge. But
I mean, the best guys always enjoyed it. Even freaking Thez, for Christ's sakes, if you read his book, he enjoyed it. Sometimes he enjoyed tearing people's ass up.
Right.
But he just
stretching people to death.
yeah. But everybody enjoyed it for some reason.
Right.
And if you're not enjoying it, it's not worth 5-10 years worth of fucking $15 fucking payoffs.
For sure.
Fucking
$14 checks,
Don't-
which is a thing.
If I had made, say, I had even made over the course of my wrestling career, quote unquote, if I had made $500,000, would it be worth it? Fucking with the fucking way my back is fucked up
Right,
and my knees
your
fucked
knee
up.
and your leg.
Fuck that! I want to be able to look back and go.
If it was just a business thing,
you know,
right? You're
I
saying,
want to be able to look back and go. Remember the fucking wrestling goat? Fucking
Right.
Remember that fucking time we had a garbage can match and we had to, and the fucking promoter didn't get the garbage can and all the stores were closed in town and we had to drive around town and steal somebody's garbage can off the fucking porch and the fucking thing was rotted out in the fucking bottom and we thought we were gonna get malaria from the fucking thing. And,
Real life.
and all the shit fucking meals and all the fucked up fucking stories
The long
and all
road,
the
long
fucking
travel with your friend, like
weird fans you
five
fuck-
dudes in a car.
weird fans you fucking met, the chicken fuckers and all of it. It's like, what the fuck?
The wrestlers,
And-
too, some
and-
weirdest people in my
The
life.
hundreds of the dozens of wrestlers I haven't even mentioned on this thing that I know that were just so entertaining and it just so quirky and it's just. This is a fucking carnival. It originated in the carnival, and carnivals are supposed to be fucking fun.
Yeah.
Now, some guys would say, well, all that carny shit. Well, no. This is still supposed to be fucking fun. Have some fucking fun with it.
Great advice, if you ask me, Trini.
Some of the best that given on the Mackcast. Now, do you still look at when you were promoting shows? Did you look at it that way, like the carnival thing, like everybody gets something? Because you you got your funny guys, you got your guys that go out there and do a million spots, you got your guys that go out there and grapple. Or
Yeah.
did you have like a style of
I
wrestling that you
did.
stayed to?
I like to cover all the bases. I was not big on guys that did a million spots, though.
Right.
You know, if they want to do a dozen spots, I wasn't so bad with it. But
right.
You know, but
cut it to 12.
but I had a ring that was built to travel and not a bump and run 100 miles in. So
Now, when you say it was built to travel, what like?
the ring I had was based on the same one that Jeff Costa used, which. Sometimes they call them a B-level ring. Sometimes they call them a bar ring. Sometimes they call them a TV ring. This thing was meant to break apart into 8-foot sections.
Right, okay.
Throw it in the back of a pickup truck if you had to, although I actually had a devoted trailer to it. And, I had a trailer. It was a 10-foot long trailer.
Yeah.
Everything broke in 8-foot pieces. I built a cover for it.
Slid right
Show's done. Drive it home. Park it. There we go. All right.
was
Next show, 2 weeks. All right.
drive it right back out.
Yeah, drive back out, put it back together.
I've done some stuff in some weird, like, rings where people build it together and you show up and they're like, all right, if you're over 200 pounds, don't hit the ropes, don't take any bumps.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, all right.
I wrestled on a show one time where it was the ring had a spring and the spring broke and they used a keg to prop up the middle of it.
Oh, yeah.
It was at right in New Bedford and Jokers was the name of the club. Yep.
Was that for
That was
WWF?
Yes. Yes.
Bobby Cruz?
Yes.
All right.
There was a keg holding the ring in the middle.
That's so ridiculous.
And the Amazing Red was on the show, and I told him I was going to be his tag team partner and be the Amazing Blue Balls. And then there was this guy, Quiet Storm.
Yep.
And we had a battle royal because somebody didn't show up, so we were trying to extend time. And I remember I had this kid, Quiet Storm, in the corner, and I was choking him out with my foot. And the two Spanish Fly dudes came over. I said,
SAT?
Oh, man, yeah, that's it. Yeah, the SAT. Whoa, man, whoa. They're like, stop me in the middle of a battle royal. What? Oh, man, don't fuck with him, man. He's fucking crazy. And I'm looking at the kid.
What?
The kid's like drooling. Get the fuck out of my way. And I worked with Matt Storm on it. Was it Matt Storm? Yeah. And doing TV, and he was never believe anybody's hype. He was fucking horrible. He was supposed to pin me with a magistral cradle, and he did it the exact opposite way you're supposed to. And I
feel like that's weird.
I ended up getting stuck on top of him and
pinning him.
Pinning him. Well, of course I'm fucking stupid, and the referee still declared him the winner. And I was never much on grabbing a microphone and yelling.
Yeah.
But I grabbed the microphone and I say, "Kind of a stupid bastard! You always on top of him. What the hell? Restart this goddamn match!"
Yeah.
And Matt Storm starts babbling stuff to me on the ring. Shut up! Bang! Hit him as hard as I could. I just brought him in the ring and had him roll me up. He's like, "That was the right call." I said, "No fucking shit."
Like Bobby, he ran a few of those UWF shows.
Yes.
Like they ran one at the PAL in Fall River.
Yep.
They did a couple at the Joker spot. Used a lot of ROH guys.
Yep.
Whatever happened to that? Like, how did it just?
Well, he got busy doing the ring announcing duties, I would imagine, and just went by the wayside.
Yeah.
People start up and they fade away so quick.
Right. You see a lot of those, like, not one and done promotions, but they run a couple shows and then you.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a ton of them. Some are run by plenty of guys. There was a guy ran that NRG thing that I worked.
Yeah. Did you work NRG? That was at the.
It was a couple of
Salvation Army down the.
Yeah, he had a couple of shows.
Yeah.
Just went by the wayside. Probably didn't work out the way he thought it would.
It's funny because at that time, I had found that building for a different wrestling promotion. We used that show. Guy came on. Guy showed up the day of the show and promoted the NRG show, and then they stole the building.
There you go. Well,
I thought it was funny because it wasn't my promotion. I just, what I mean. I was just like, hey, there's a place down there.
And then some guys last longer. You had Bob and his
EPW,
which
I think he did some shows recently.
I think somebody else is actually using the name and he's running
so
through.
It wasn't.
Yeah, and a guy named Jeff. I think Jeff Costa trained him initially.
Okay.
And he used to tag team with Sonny Goodspeed, and it was. I mean, so many of them come and go.
Right.
And Bob used to run a town called Mooseup, Connecticut, and we used to call it Moose Lips because and there was always about 12 people there. Not that I'm saying I never ran a couple of shows with 12 people watching a thing. But
it happens.
Yeah, I mean, hey.
But thank you, man. I really appreciate you coming down.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. The stories have been great. I hope people enjoy this. I guess I was going to say if you want Maverick Wild at your next local show, but I guess that's not going to be happening, folks. So
If you want Maverick Wild at your next local show, you can send $200,000 for the amount of surgery it would take.
PayPal, you can get that PayPal. Maybe we'll GoFundMe together.
Okay. Or I'll pick up a MoneyGram or whatever, and then we'll start there.
We'll figure it out then, folks. So get that GoFundMe started.
Thanks for everyone for checking it out and giving it a listen. Thank you, Maverick Wild, for coming down to the Mack Mansion. I know it was a little bit of a travel, so much appreciated. And we'll catch you guys later the next time you're listening, right?
Yeah, for sure.
At any local wrestling show. Come on down.
We got some shows coming up. We're doing NWW. We're going to do a live Mack cast from NWW. We didn't talk about that.
Yeah, that was secret Mack news. You weren't supposed to release.
Oh, it's on a poster already.
Nice fucking job.
Trooper released it.
You can talk about it then.
And then we have the RWA show, which I think is January 27th, but there's no information about that. Just keep checking the page and I don't know where it's going to be yet. That's basically what I'm saying. I don't have the poster in front of me. But anything else, folks, just check it out. Facebook, all that good stuff. This has been the Mackcast. I'm training number 1.
MonsterMack.net.
It's not your name.
I'm Monster Mack.
Everybody have a good night.